Hi guys, this is the debrief video for quiz 2 of performance management that we conducted a week ago, 2 weeks ago. So here are the solutions along with explanation. And if you need the Excel sheet, all you have to do is you have to put your comment and in the comment section and I will help you with it. This quiz again was on specialist cost accounting techniques. Okay. Now, a company which makes two products, Alpha and Zeta, uses activity-based costing to absorb its overheads. It has recently identified a new overhead cost pool for inspection cost and has decided that the cost driver is the number of inspections. Cost driver is number of inspections. And total inspection cost is 2,50,000. First thing we want to calculate is the overhead absorption rate, which is budgeted overheads divided by budgeted number of inspections. Let's talk about the two products. Production volume is given to you, machine hours per unit, units per batch, and inspections per batch. Okay, so let's just get our basic data together. Alpha and Zeta. Now, what is production volume? Production volume, alpha is 2500, zeta is 8000. What are the units per batch? You make 500 units of alpha per batch and 1000 units of zeta per batch. That means number of batches. You make 2500 units of alpha and you make 500 units per batch. So total, how many batches would you need? You would need 2500 upon 500. That is 5 batches. How did I calculate this? This was basically production volume divided by units per batch. Okay. So now I know that I have the number of batches and what are the inspections per batch? Inspections per batch. This is 4 and this is 1. So total inspections, which is basically number of batches into inspection per batch. Okay. This is number of batches into inspection per batch. So how do I get this calculation? My total cost is 2,50,000 divided by 28. What is 28? 28 is the number of batches. So, oh sorry, the number of inspections. Now what will be your OAR? It's 2,50,000 divided by 28, which is 8928.57 per inspection. Okay. 8928.57 per inspection. What is the inspection cost per unit of alpha? Now you write the overhead absorption rate, cost per inspection. Okay, in both cases, of course, it is 8928.57. But you don't need to really calculate that for zeta anyway. So total cost absorbed will be 20 into 8928.57. And what is cost per unit? Cost per unit will be 1,78,571 divided by 2500. So that is 71.43. So this is the answer that you were looking out for. Okay. And of course, these are the numbers that we took from the 8928.57 was the calculated overhead absorption rate, cost per inspection. We multiplied that with the number of inspections to get total cost absorbed, and 71.43 is my final answer. And the question will usually mention whether they want 2 digits after the decimal point, 4 digits after the decimal point, whatever it is. So make sure that you follow that instruction. Okay. Now, moving on to the next one. ABC company Always remember, never read the narration first, read the requirement first. Using traditional method of overhead absorption based on labor hours, what is the overhead cost per unit for each unit of product alpha? ABC company manufactures two products, alpha and beta. Both are produced in a very labor intensive environment and use similar processes. Alpha and beta differ by volume. Beta is a high volume product, alpha is a low volume product. You have information about number of labor hours, about annual output, number of purchase orders, number of setups. Fixed overheads amount to 4,20,000 and have been analyzed as follows. Using the traditional method of absorption costing based on labor hours. Okay. To make one unit, you need 5 for alpha and you need 5 hours for beta. Okay. So product direct labor hours per unit, then annual output, then total hours. Here they have specifically told you that you are supposed to absorb the cost on the basis of labor hours. Otherwise, if you know better cost drivers are available, you would prefer using those cost drivers. Okay. This is alpha, this is beta. Phi, phi. Annual output 1200, 12,000. Total labor hours 60,000 and 60,000 and 6,000. Okay. Now what do we do next? It gives me total labor hours of 66,000. Now tell me something. If you observe the question carefully, see 66,000 is the total labor hours. Up total overheads are 4,20,000. Overhead absorption rate is budgeted overheads 4,20,000 upon budgeted are 66,000. Okay. So 4,20,000 upon 66,000, which gives you basically an overhead absorption rate of 6.36 per hour. Okay, 6.36 per hour. Write down the OAR here. OAR is 6.36. Okay, now what are overheads absorbed? Overhead absorbed are 6,000 labor hours into cost per hour. Okay, but is this what you want? I don't think so. They have specifically asked you calculate overheads absorbed per unit for alpha 31.82. So this is the answer that you are looking out for, overhead cost absorbed per unit of product alpha when you are using the traditional absorption costing technique, which uses number of labor hours as the base. Okay, perfect. Moving on. Using a traditional method of overheads, I think this is a repetition of the same question. So we'll not take this into account. We'll move on to the next one. Here, using activity-based costing as the method of overhead absorption, what is the overhead cost per unit for each unit of product alpha? Okay. Overhead cost per unit for each unit of alpha. You have volume related overheads, you have purchasing related overheads, you have setup related overheads. Okay. So I will call this overhead description. Okay. Then overhead amount. Volume related, purchasing related, setup related. Okay. What is the overhead here? It's 1 lakh. It's 1,45,000 and 1,75,000. Okay. Let's see if we can identify the cost driver because we have to use activity based costing, and cost driver is that particular cost driver is something that influences or has an impact on cost. For volume related overheads, it would be units. For purchasing related overheads, it would be number of purchase orders. For setup related overheads, it would be number of setups. Okay. Now, what is, let's identify the cost driver value. Okay. If number of units is the cost driver, how many total units are made? 1200 plus 12,000 units are made. If number of purchase orders is the cost driver, what is the total number of purchase orders? 75 for alpha and 85 for beta. And if number of setups is the cost driver, then how do you get the number of setups? 40 plus 60, which is 100. Okay, how do I get my overhead absorption rate? It is this upon 13,200. I will call this 7.57 per unit, 906.25 per purchase order, and 1750 per setup. Cool. With this in mind, let's see if we can fulfill the requirement in the question. And what is that requirement? They want you to calculate the overhead cost per unit for each unit of product alpha. Okay, so cost analysis for alpha. Only the overhead cost per unit they want. Okay, so number of, or you know what, we could do it here for alpha actually. We don't need a separate calculation. Here, what is the overhead absorption rate is what we have calculated, 7.58 per unit. You have 1200 units of alpha. Then you have 75 purchase orders of alpha. Then you have 1750 per setup, right? How many setups you have? 40 setups of alpha. So how do I get my total cost here? That would be 1200 into 7.58 per unit, then 75 into 906.25 and 40 into 1750 per setup. Your total cost is 147,059.66. Okay, 147,059.66. As 147,060 also you can call it. This divided by 1200 units of alpha. So what is the cost per unit? 147,060 upon 1200, 122.55. Okay. This is using activity based costing, overhead cost per unit for each unit of alpha. Cool. So slightly longer in terms of calculation, but we arrive at the final number. You just need to keep your patience intact in these questions. Okay, let's look at another one. A company makes two products using the same type of material and skilled workers. The following information is available. Budgeted volume, material per unit, labor per unit. Fixed cost relating to material handling is 1 lakh. The cost driver for these costs is the volume of material purchased. General fixed overheads absorbed on the basis of labor hours are 1,80,000. Using activity based costing, what is the total fixed cost? What is the total fixed overhead amount to be absorbed into each unit of product B? The budgeted volume uh, for product A and product B is given to you. Okay. Now, after this, what do they expect? They have told you that material per unit is the cost is 10 for product A and 20 for product B. Now, please pay attention. This is material per unit. You need this much. Fixed cost relating to material handling is 1 lakh. The cost driver for these costs is the volume of material purchased. Okay. Volume of material purchased means quantity of material purchased. What is the total material cost? The total material cost is 1 lakh. Okay. Now, What is total material cost for product A? It is 1000 into 10, that is 10,000. And total material cost for product B is 2000 into 20, that is 40,000. So the total material cost is, or other, in terms of the material usage, usage of material A or usage of material for product A is 10,000 rupees. Usage of material for product B is 20,000. Okay, and you have to calculate the overhead absorption rate here. The total fixed cost relating to material handling is 1 lakh. Okay, so what is the overhead absorption rate here? Overhead absorption rate is 1 lakh upon 50,000, which is $2 per what? $2 per dollar of material used. See here, they had said that the cost driver is the volume of material purchased. But if you see, you don't have the volume of material given to you, but you have the material cost per unit. Now, naturally, material cost per unit varies directly in proportion to the number of units of material purchased. So, we calculated our overhead absorption rate like this. General fixed overheads absorbed on the basis of number of labor hours amounts to 1,80,000. Okay. Now, labor cost for A is 1000 into 5, which is 5,000. Okay. And labor cost for B is 2000 into 20. Sorry, not 30. 2000 into 20, that is 40,000. So OAR in this case is 1,80,000 upon 45,000, which is 45 into 4. So OAR for labor is $4 for, per dollar of labor cost. Slightly different way of expressing the overhead absorption rate. Usually you have number of hours, but here they have given you labor cost per unit, and labor cost per unit will be directly proportional to the number of labor hours. Okay. So I get my two different OARs, one for material, one for labor. Using activity based costing, what is the total fixed overhead amount to be absorbed into each unit of product B? Okay. Up, you have to calculate the overheads to be absorbed in each unit of product B. A product B has what? Product B, material cost is 20. OAR is $2 of overheads to be absorbed for every dollar of material cost spent, which is 20 into 2, that is 40. Okay, product B, labor cost is again 20, I believe. And what is OAR? OAR is $4 of overheads to be absorbed for every dollar of labor cost spent. So 20 into 4 is 80. So 40 and 80, total fixed overheads absorbed. Total fixed overheads absorbed are 40 plus 80, which is 120. This question was different here. The way you expressed the overhead absorption rate was quite different as compared to the other questions that we have seen. So be a little careful in this one. Okay. If you have any questions, you can always let me know. Now, DRP Limited, what is the budgeted machine setup cost per unit of R? Machine DRP Limited has recently introduced an activity-based costing system. It manufactures three products, details of which are set out below. Particulars DRP. Budgeted annual production 1 lakh, 1 lakh 50,000. Okay. Batch size is 100, 50, 25. Okay, this is A, this is B. You have budgeted production, you have batch size, you can get number of batches. How do you get number of batches? It is A upon B. 1 lakh upon 100. You want budgeted machine setup cost per unit of R. Okay, you have the details on number of batches, machine setups per batch. Machine setups per batch. 3, 4, and 6. Okay, so total machine setups C into D. Okay, so on an overall level, you have 23,000 setups. Okay, what is the total number of setups? 23,000. So now if I were to calculate my overhead absorption rate, overhead absorption rate will be machine setup cost of 1,50,000 upon 23,000, which is 6.52 per setup. Okay, F OAR per setup. We calculated that as 6.52 basically. So I will now get setup cost absorbed, right? What is setup cost absorbed? E, sorry. Yes, it's E into F. Rho E into rho F. 8,000 into 6.52, which is 52,173.91. And you want cost per unit, right? Cost per unit is this upon 1 lakh, which is again 0.52. You wanted the answer up to 2 digits after the decimal point, and I would like to believe that you have it now. This is what you wanted, cost per unit, and you have it. Quite a straightforward question, I would say. Chalo. The predicted selling price for a product has been set at 56. The desired markup on cost is 25. What is markup? Markup is gross profit expressed as a percentage of cost. So if cost, usme you add your markup and you have your selling price. Okay, let's take assumed values. Cost is 100. If cost is 100, then markup is 25 and selling price naturally would be 125. Now against that, what is your actual data? How much is your actual selling price? Your actual selling price is 50, or the expected selling price, predicted selling price is 56. So naturally, if I have to get my cost, it will be 56 into 100 upon 125, which is 44.8. And 44.80 is 56 into 100 upon 125. Cross multiplication. Okay, material cost for the product is estimated to be 16 before allowing for additional materials to allow for shrinkage of 20%. For every 10 kg of material going in, only 8 kg comes out. If labor is the only other cost and 2 hours are needed, what is the most the business can pay per hour if a cost gap is to be avoided? That means my target cost has to be 44.80, which should be equal to material plus labor. So 44.80 is my material plus labor. Now observe that is 16 before allowing for additional materials to allow for shrinkage of 20%. For every 10 kg of material that goes in, only 8 kg comes out. ठीक है. So 10 kg goes in, 8 kg comes out. Input and output that way. Okay. Now, what is the situation in our case? The material cost before allowing for shrinkage is 16. Now, material cost before allowing for shrinkage is 16. So, how much is the cost of material going in? The cost of material going in again has to be 20. So, material cost is 20. Okay. That means labor is 44.80 minus 20, which is 24.80. If labor is the only other cost and 2 hours are needed, what is the most the business can pay per hour? Total labor cost is 24.8 and you need 2 hours to make the product. So the maximum amount that you would be willing to pay is 12.40. You need it up to 2 digits after the decimal point. See, this point is important. Material cost for the product is estimated to be 16 before allowing for additional material, which is 20% shrinkage ho jata hai. So if 10 kg goes in, 8 kg comes out, and 16 is the cost of what comes out after the loss. So how much material has to go in? Material worth 20 has to go in. We got that by cross multiplication. Okay. I hope this is clear. Again, if you have any question, please let me know. Now, VC company is a company of opticians. Okay. And what does VC company do? VC company is a company of opticians, as in something related to chashma here for that matter. It provides a range of services to the public, such as eye test and contact lens consultations, and has a separate dispensary selling glasses and contact lenses. Patients book appointments with an optician in advance. A standard appointment is 30 minutes long, during which an optician will assess the patient's specific requirements and provide them with the eye care services they need. After the appointment, patients are offered the chance to buy contact lenses or glasses from the dispensary. Which of the following describes a characteristic of services by an optician at VC company during a standard appointment? Okay, characteristic of service. Tangible, no, it's not tangible. Homogeneous, no, it will differ from patient to patient. Uh, Non-perishable, well, it is perishable once, once it's delivered again, you cannot take it. You have to go back. If you want another eye checkup, you have to get it done again. It's perishable that way. Once consumed, it's over. And simultaneous. Which of the following describes a characteristic of service provided by an optician? An optician, he's someone who checks the number of your retina or whatever it is. So when he's checking the number physically, that is when you are getting the result out of it. So it's happening at the same time, hence the answer is homogeneous. Okay. Now, a company has produced the following information for a product which it is about to launch. The product is expected to have a life of 3 years. What is the expected life cycle cost per product? Okay. So first of all, total variable cost. How will I get it? 2000 units in year 1 into 2.3 plus 5000 into 1.8 plus 7000 into 1.2. 22,000, 2000 into 2.3, 5000 into 1.8, 7000 into 1.2. That's my total variable cost. How do I get my total fixed cost? Total fixed cost is 3000 plus 3500 plus 4000, 10,500. Okay. Then variable selling cost per unit. So total वेरिएबल सेलिंग कॉस्ट कितना होगा? टोटल वेरिएबल सेलिंग कॉस्ट 2000 into 0.5 plus 5000 into 0.4 plus 7000 into 0.4 comes to 5800. Then fixed selling cost. Fixed selling cost is 1500 plus 1600 plus 1600. Right? 1500 plus 1600 plus 1600 and admin cost 700 plus 700 plus 700, 2100. Total life cycle cost, ठीक है, total units during lifetime, कितना है total units during lifetime? 2000 plus 5000 plus 7000. 2000 plus 5000 plus 7000, which is 14,000. Okay. Now what do you need? You need the life cycle cost per unit. So how much is that going to be? 45,100 upon 14,000, 3.22 is the life cycle cost per unit. And this is the answer that you were looking out for. Okay. Chalo. Which four of the following are said to be benefits of life cycle costing? Okay, excuse me. It provides the true financial cost of a product. Yes, because it considers every single cost item incurred. The length of the life cycle can be shortened. It's not a benefit of life cycle costing. This has got nothing to do with the benefit or anything for that matter. Then expensive errors can be avoided in that potentially failing products can be avoided. Then lower costs can be achieved earlier by designing out cost. What do you mean by designing out cost? Basically, you are trying to make the model more affordable by maybe cutting out some of the features in the design stage which are not desired by customers. Then better selling prices can be set. Yes, maybe because it will give you a realistic number of the total cost incurred. Decline stage of the life cycle can be avoided. No, you cannot avoid the decline stage. And expensive errors can be avoided in that potentially failing products can be avoided. When you do life cycle costing, you will get a complete picture of the entire journey of the product, at what stage, how much cost is going to be incurred. And if you come to a realization that the costs are going to be very high and you might want to avoid that situation simply by avoid simply by not going ahead with the decision to make that particular product. Okay, and last one. Okay, what is cloud's throughput per hour of the bottleneck resource limited to two decimal places? Okay, now the first step is to identify, of course, what the bottleneck is. Sky Limited operates in an environment where products go through two processes and details of their capacity are below. Sky Limited operates in an environment where products go through two processes and details are given below. Process P, there are 8 machines operating at 90% capacity. Each machine produces 6 units per hour. Process Q, there are 6 machines operating at 85% capacity. Each machine produces 9 units per hour. Sky Limited produces the cloud, which is not a popular product. The marketing manager has therefore decided to apply a price discount of 15% on the selling price of $20. The material cost per unit is $5 and direct labor cost per unit is twice that of the material cost for cloud. It currently takes zero point 0.2 hours and zero point 0.3 hours to make a unit of cloud on the machines P and Q respectively. See, here we'll have to first of all identify the bottleneck. Okay, what is what happens in process P? Let's see. Process P, 8 machines operating at 90% capacity. Okay. Uh, each machine produces 6 units per hour. 6 units per hour into 90% capacity, which is 8 into 6 into 90%, which is 43.2. And process Q. Process Q, there are 6 machines. Each machine can make 9 units per hour, but all the machines are operating at 85% capacity. So what is happening with machine Q? How much is the output that machine Q is giving you? 6 into 9 into 85%, 45.9. Now, normally when you have to identify the bottleneck resource, what do? You identify the total time available, then you compare that with the total time required. In this case, that kind of information is not given to you. So if you observe, if that kind of information is not given to you, if you see process P is giving you 43.2 ka output and process Q is giving you 45.9 ka output. This is slower, okay? Process P is slower because its output is slower. Process Q is giving you an output of 45.9. Process P is giving you an output of 43.2. Naturally, process P is slower. And when process P is slower, that naturally becomes my bottleneck. What have they asked you? They have asked me to calculate throughput per hour on the bottleneck resource. What is throughput? Throughput is selling price minus material cost. Okay. Selling price normally is how much? Normally it is 20 per unit, but the manager is giving a discount. So selling price after discount will be 20 minus 15% of 20. That is 17. Okay. Now material cost per unit is 5. 17 is the selling price, 5 is the material cost. Throughput per unit is selling price minus material cost, which is basically 12. And they want you to calculate throughput per hour on the bottleneck resource. Bottleneck resource is process P, and in process P, it currently takes 0.2 hours. So throughput per hour. Throughput is 12, and on the bottleneck resource, you need 0.2 hours. Correct? So that means your throughput per hour is 60 per hour. So this is how the calculation goes. If you have a doubt in any of these questions, just let me know in the comment section and I will help you out, or maybe we can arrange a doubt session also. Thank you so much.